We're sailing down to Langkawi today. It's kind of a bit of a shakedown because we've put a lot of new stuff on. This is the first time we can really test everything out.
So far this year, 2020, had consisted of boat work in the yard and then more boat work at anchor preparing Nandji for the Indian Ocean. Our list of jobs were coming to an end and we would soon be leaving Thailand and kicking off this massive year of sailing.
We just pulled out our spare sails and we're going to go over them and have a look. This one is our storm jib.
This was made to suit Uncle's boat, which is a 38-foot vessel, same sort of weight, and he asked the sailmaker to build a sail that could handle 50 knots. Uncle said he ain't going to be doing any big passages anytime soon, so he donated his storm jib to Nandji's cause.
He said, if it's 50 knots, I'm not putting a sail up. No, just kidding, Uncle.
Yeah, no, so good on you, Uncle. So we've got his old storm jib. He got this made quite a few years ago when he was sailing across the Pacific. So yeah, now he's recycled it and it's moved on to Nandji. We might just hoist it up and just have a look at it, see the size of it and just air it out and see if we need to do anything to it.
I'm just checking that all the hanks work. They might need a bit of spray with lanolin or something if they get too stuck, but so far so good.
There's quite a bit of sail area there.
50 knots, you want to bang or what? Like, come on.
I remember when we had 50 knots on that first passage across the New Caledonia, we had like 1 square metre of head sail out.
Yeah, that felt like too much.
That felt like too much. We were boosting.
Doing 12 knots, you know, so yeah, this is really...
50 knots to have that much sail out. Shit.
We got another big day of riding around today. We hoisted up the storm jib for the first time the other day and it's massive, and so we're
going to have to do something about that.
We're going to take it to a sailmaker at Rolly Tuskers and see if they can cut it down for us and just see what our options are if we have any in modifying it to make it a bit more heavy weather.
A few little loose ends still to collect.
Yeah, another day on the scooter.
Scooter life.
So we're down at the Rolly Tusker sail making loft and it's the biggest custom sail making loft in the world, and we're just out on the floor at the moment.
That spinnaker they're making there, it has to be for a super yacht. That's like there's 50 metres long.
Some huge sails being made here today. But
and here we are with our little storm jib.
Yeah, we're trying to make our sail smaller.
So measuring it, we're going to compare the sail area of this sail compared to the sail area of a storm jib that they generally make, what they have like of their general size. Yeah. So we'll just go compare the two and see how big this is.
And recut like this, I will turn the 2 patch. So this, normally it's 7,000 baht, but okay, I do 6,000 baht.
This sail is 3 square metres bigger than a normal storm jib. So yeah, we're going to cut it down. We've chosen.
Yeah, so we decided we'll cut it, reduce the leach right down. We're comparing sail sizes, and the size of the storm jib that they generally make for a 36 to 39 foot, it's about, on the higher end is 8 square metres, and then from a 40 foot to a 43 foot boat it's around like the 9.5 to 9.5 square metres, and this one at the current is 11.5 square metres. So we want to reduce that back down to about a 39 foot vessel, even though Nandji's 40 foot, but I just want to have a small sail because it's blowing 50 knots. Last thing I want is having too much sail out.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're going to get it cut down, so we'll cut it down on the luff, which will reduce the leach. The foot will stay the same. Yeah, then we only have to put 1 patch at the top.
How many square metres do you reckon it's going to knock off?
It's knocking off like 3 square metres, so the size of it then will be like 8 square metres, which is basically a storm jib for a 39 foot boat.
Yeah. Perfect, that's what we want.
That's what we want. We want to be under sail. If blowing a gale, we want a little sail. Before we head out on passage, we're going to give all these winches a good old clean. Probably haven't cleaned them for a year. And then when we got back as well, after being away and leaving Nandji by herself, I've come back and noticed that this winch here is the worst of them. It was a little bit seized, just had a bit of built up of salt and that sort of stuff, and taking it apart halfway. Not really the best sounding winch, so we'll pull that apart, clean it all up, give it a re-greasing, and then we'll stick it all back together. These bearings are looking super dirty. We're gonna have to give them puppies a good clean. We've gone through everything and I've got it all laid out in front of me. I've degreased everything. I use diesel as a degreaser, just a heap of rags and a bit of sandpaper, like 320, 240 grit sandpaper, and just, yeah, getting in all the nooks and crannies and got all that old grease off. So now we'll put it all back together again. Hopefully this doesn't take too long and I can remember which order I took it apart. Well, I guess the moment of truth is, how does it work? How does it sound? The old one finger spin.
After weeks at anchor, ticking jobs off the list, Nandji was ready for a shakedown sail. The day had come and a perfect day for sailing, so we cleared out of Thailand and set off for Langkawi, 120 nautical miles south. If everything goes well, we'll be departing for Sri Lanka within the week and beginning our Indian Ocean voyage. We had invested the last 2 years of our lives and everything we have into this trip. There has been countless hours of boat work and many frustrations along the way, but to now have reached this point where departure is just around the corner, we were in high spirits and excited for what lay ahead.
We're sailing down to Langkawi today. We'll probably stop at Rocknock, pretty standard little trip down to Langkawi. But it's quite a bit of a test sail. It's kind of a bit of a shakedown because we've put a lot of new stuff on. We've just been in Phuket working hard, getting everything ready for this passage, and I guess this is the first time we can really test everything out, like new halyards and blocks and all these sorts of things that we've ran. So it's blowing like 15s, probably gusting at 20. I doubt it is, but we'll say it is. And yeah, so it's just good to test out all the new halyards and see what all the rigging's like. Sailing with a clean winch, a bearing block. Woof, that jib sheet just whips on in, no worries. It's a good feeling. Yeah, so we got a good bit of wind and we'll just be able to test it all out and fly along. It's fun sailing at the moment. Been reaching our way down to Langkawi.
The floor was a little bit wet in the bedroom, so I pulled up the floorboards and we've got water down the back here.
Yeah.
Is that from the sea clock? Any ideas?
That might come through the steering gland.
We used to have a leak there from the stern tube, but we since took all that out and replaced it all. It's all brand new and Mickey Mouse and watertight, so it's got to be something else. And it might be something to do with the steering, so I'm gonna have to have a look at that. And luckily the steering's something that we can fix in water, so that's fine. And that's why we have these shakedown sails, just to make sure there's no issues. If you know, after you do like an extensive amount of boat work, it's good just to test it all out and make sure that everything is beautiful. What do you think?
Yeah, I reckon it's the steering gland. Might just need tightening. But you've got to rip up the bed for that, so we'll do that when we get to Langkawi or whatever.
Yeah. We're
not sinking, it's no big rush. But yeah, I think it's just that. We've never replaced that. Probably should have before when we hauled out, to be honest now.
Where do you get them
in
from?
hindsight.
Do you get steering, are they common?
I'll just have to look at it. It's probably just packing. Have to put new packing in there, but hopefully I can just tighten it. I don't know, we'll have a look when we get to Langkawi.
I hope you don't have to order something.
Yeah, me too. Having a clean butt on Nandji makes so much a difference with the speeds that we sail. Like when that wind was up at 15 knots, we were sailing at 7 knots, no worries. Then with the auto prop, we always just click it into gear rather than leave it in neutral. We notice when it's still in neutral, the prop still spins, and so it's not pitched. The blades aren't pitching out 100%, so it's still rotating, so it's still got a bit of drag. So we just click it into gear. The blades pitch right out, so they're just side on. There's no friction, and yeah, clean butt, no drag from the prop. It's like a knot and a half in itself, though. Big difference to make our passages super fast. this time of year the weather's pretty settled, like it's quite predictable. The wind's going to be out of the northeast, and for the past week at least while we've been in at Geelong getting everything ready, the wind's just been the strongest in the morning, been blowing out of the east northeast. Afternoon drops out to pretty well nothing, and then you have a pretty well glassy afternoon. Then the wind picks up again through the night. And today is following pretty much the exact same suit. We had that stronger wind this morning, and now it's just slowly easing and easing, and I reckon by this afternoon we'll have that motor rumbling and Fang will be taking us to our next destination.
After a solid day of sailing, Nandji passed with flying colours and we were confident she was ready for the Indian Ocean. We motored the remaining miles into the protection of Koh Rock and relished in the beauty of the afternoon sun, but little did we know how much everything was about to change.
Seriously, my worst nightmare. We need to find the leak, that's it. We need to find a hole where it's coming in. That's not where Nandji's meant to be.